Hi, this is Asim. This is Sujoy.
This is Amrita.
And you're listening to Khandaan, a Bollywood podcast about the three main Khans of the Hindi film industry. Amir, Salman,
and Shah Rukh.
Hi, you're listening to Khandaan, a Bollywood podcast regular feed. Thank you so much for your support over the years. We now have a Patreon channel with bonus content and exclusive merch for those of you who would like to support us. Every dollar goes towards creating more and better content. Visit us at patreon.com/KhandaanPodcast.
Hi and welcome to a new episode of Khandaan Podcast. My name is Asim Bernie and I'm joined by my lovely co-host Amrita and Sujoy. Hey Amrita, hey Sujoy.
Hello.
Hello.
And because we have Pathaan, like the biggest movie of the year, we have the biggest media personality with us, Haroon, Rashid. Haroon, thanks for coming back.
Thank you for having me back. I do feel like a little bit like, whoa, I was worthy of being on the Pathaan episode. Like this is the pinnacle of my career so far. Honestly, I'm honored.
And you're joining us with a messed up throat, we really, really appreciate that.
It's okay. I've got, like Pathaan has his weapons, I have my weapons in front of me. Dushanda, lemon ginger tea, and some coffee to keep me going. I'll be fine.
Yeah. Plus, we're not the BBC, so our rules are not as strict as you're used to, maybe. Hey, but Haroon, tell us first about the new show that you're working on.
Yes, this is really exciting. I start a new show on the BBC Asian Network on the 20th of February. So up until now, I've been presenting a show called Beyond Bollywood, which is primarily about film and TV and streaming shows. And that's every Saturday from 11 a.m. And my new show will be Monday to Friday, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. about everything apart from movies and TVs and shows that I don't know if you guys know, but there's a world out there outside of films and TV and streaming shows. I didn't know, but apparently it exists. So,
do we need to care about that world?
Yeah. I mean, you know what? Beyond Bollywood will still be there on a Saturday, so it's fine. I'll still have that there as well.
Wow! Are you
Congratulations
excited?
On the new show.
Yeah,
congratulations.
Thank you. I am very excited. But I have like these 3 weeks where I don't know what to do with myself because I've never been off work for this period of time before this new show starts. So I'm binging things, I'm catching up on things and just sitting there like twiddling my thumbs, not knowing what to do, but it's fine.
Oh my God. We have to organize a dinner at least.
Yes,
before
for sure.
Before
Absolutely,
your 3 weeks are over, yeah?
Yeah.
Shall we get into Pathaan a little bit?
Yes, why not?
I mean, I don't think we should talk about anything else, right? Like, there's no point, right? Like, nothing matters except Pathaan.
I mean, are you interested to
No. And also, this is going to be a spoilerific episode. Like, we're not gonna stop back on the spoilers because there's no other way to do this, right? Like, and also, I feel like looking at the box office numbers, I feel like everybody has seen this movie already. So, so you're probably looking at the repeat audience over the next couple of days. So I feel it's safe to let out a few spoilers.
Yeah. Sujoy, what were you saying?
I was saying the only thing that came out between us recording this podcast in the last week or so is Kabhi Kisi Ka Bhai Kisi Ki Jaan. And I don't know if Asim, are you interested to talk about that or should we just sail through to Pathaan?
It's going to make me sad, man. I don't want to start the podcast on a sad note. I want to start with a happy note.
Sure. Okay.
So let's talk about Kisi Ki Bhai Kisi Ka Jaan when the trailer comes out instead. That wasn't a trailer, right? That was a teaser?
Yeah, just a teaser with that. A lot of hair.
Let's talk about good things.
The problem is the teaser is supposed to make you want to watch the trailer and it's just doing the opposite. Very good.
Imagine it's had this effect on me. Like, imagine, like, you know, like, oh my God, like, it's not good. It's not good.
And that's the teaser review of Kisi Ka Bhai Kisi Ki Jaan. Sure.
Yeah. Let's get into Pathaan. Like, how do we even start? Like, I think, let's start this way. Haroon, how did you watch the movie? What was the audience like? What
I'm so proud to say I did first day, first show because I always hear like critics in India talking about first day, first show, 6 a.m. screening. I didn't have a 6 a.m. screening in West London. My screening was at lunchtime, but it was the busiest I've ever seen the cinema at around 2 p.m. on a Wednesday afternoon. I've never seen the cinema here that busy. And it was, like I was saying this in my review on my show, that I've never seen, well, the last time I saw audiences whistling and clapping in a cinema was with RRR last March. And that happened again throughout this entire screening. So that was where I watched it and how I watched it. And I didn't go with any friends on the first day because I didn't want anybody to like kind of get into my brain. Yeah, I just wanted to absorb it all myself and make up my own mind about it. So yeah, that was the setting.
Okay, and how was it? Were people dancing in the audience? What was going on?
Unfortunately, I didn't get a live performance of Jhume Jo Pathaan at the front like I've been seeing. But
like one German lady dancing on her own.
But it was lively. Like there was claps and cheers throughout.
Yeah. Did you see that video of the German lady dancing on her own?
Yeah.
It was funny because in the back, like there were like German subtitles, and I was like, man, even Shah Rukh can't make German sound sexy. Like, Amrita, what was the local audience like in India?
So the first show that I went to was at the IMAX, and I was like super excited because I was like, oh my God, I haven't been to an IMAX show in like since before the pandemic. So I was like really excited. And then of course it was YRF who cheap out on everything and have like literally no idea how to market their own product. So everything was pixelated. It was a wrong aspect ratio. Everything was stretched. It was horrible.
How do you know that was your screening and not just the way the film is?
No, because, well, that is the way the film is because it's a YRF product. So I am 100% sure that they just sent it out and were just like, here, just do the best that you can. Because an aspect ratio in 2023, like that is the most basic thing that you can fix. Yeah. But of course it's YRF and they don't care about anything. I mean, we'll talk about the marketing in a little bit, I'm sure. But anyway, but even with the crappy quality of the print, I had such a good time. And then I was with a friend who was like really into it. She hadn't seen any of the Tiger movies, so she wasn't like prepared for the cameo. She didn't really get any of the inside jokes, but she still enjoyed the heck out of it. And then the next day I went by myself to this single screen theater downtown that was like, like it was 4:00 on a Friday. No, not on a Friday, on a Saturday evening. And it was just full of families and like everybody was screaming and cheering at like all the right moments. And they thought it was funny as well. Like, like all the jokes landed, which is not a given for a Shah Rukh movie, I feel. And the first time around, I was just waiting for the cringe to really kick in, and it didn't. And I was like, wow, it's been a minute since that happened to me, at a Shah Rukh movie, sad to say. But I had a great time. The locals were having a really great time. It was a very mixed crowd. It wasn't just North Indians. It was like, people who were like talking like various languages. It's been pretty great. How about you guys? How was the meetup?
Sure.
Oh, it was great. I mean, I would first say about my first viewing experience, which was on Wednesday evening after I finished work. I went to O2 for I couldn't wait till the meetup to watch it for the first time. So I went straight on Wednesday to view it. And it was nuts because all the fans showed up, right? Because all the families, people, and everybody would be like, weekend ko chalte hain, Shah Rukh ki movie aayi hai, and all that. But then the fans were like, no, we are eager to watch a Shah Rukh movie that's come after 4 years, and everybody showed up, and it was packed. And I haven't seen a reaction to a Bollywood movie like that, like in London at least. I've seen RRR back home, and I know how the crowds can go nuts. But this time, like, people cheered for John, people even cheered for Dimple and Colonel Luthra. People cheered when Shah Rukh's hair was flying. People cheered when Enes Tanoche, started, and
the abs, the abs. The 8 abs.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I feel like I missed out because Dimple didn't get a round of applause in my screen.
And then yesterday it was the weekend crowd, right? All the families. It was as Asim said, multiplex audience, And I was the only one borrowing city. I was feeling a bit rowdy, but then Asim was cheering next to me, so I felt encouraged to do that. And Hanisha, who came for the meetup, and we were talking like I was the only one borrowing city, and Hanisha was like, "Yeah, we knew you were the only one." Because that's the kind of reputation precedes me.
Yeah, it was really fun. Like I managed to go twice. I went to the IMAX screening, but it was said that it was an IMAX, but it was actually a really small screen, so it wasn't really an IMAX experience at all. I think I was being a bit of a party pooper because I had not seen Shah Rukh in ages on screen, so I was really looking forward to it. But I'd forgot Desi audiences do whatever Desi audience want to do. So they were literally shooting the entry with their camera like that, right? Like, how am I going to enjoy Shah Rukh if your screen of Shah Rukh is in front of me? And then people were also late. So the guy on the end was like, "Auntie, like, yeah, we're in seat row this." And it's like, Shah Rukh is saying he's back. Like,
also, that's such a good point because I went to watch it again on Friday night with my friends and it was a jam-packed, like both screenings were full, but this was really like everybody was there. And there was kids sitting next to me. And I did think to myself, if this was the first time I had watched the movie, I would have been so pissed off because I would have been like, I don't want my experience of this film ruined by a crying kid next to me. And I wish but for some reason that kid's parents were not affected. Apparently their experience was absolutely fine. Like it made me sad. It hurt me for Shah Rukh.
Sometimes it's worse when they give an iPad to the kid and the kid starts playing games and the game sounds are actually mixed with the movie soundtrack. It's just nuts.
But it's the full Desi experience. You can't do it. Either you have a samosa or you get into a fight. One or the other thing will happen, like.
And people just didn't come after the second half for like after the interval. People didn't show up. They were queuing for popcorn and everything, and the whole cameo scene has ended.
So they only got the after the post credit sequence. Like, how does that even make sense when you miss 20 minutes of the movie?
So that is actually a good point because what I saw in the theater was that when Jhume Pathaan comes on playing, people think the movie's all over. Yeah. They're not really aware that there's a post-credit scene. So for me, what I was thinking was that the post-credit scene is really for the diehard fans who just stuck around for the entire experience. They get a little reward at the end, which is shout out to Salman.
I think it's also more, if you do not watch Jhume Pathaan, you should be punished. You should be punished.
You don't deserve the cameo.
Itni mehnat kari hai, abs banaye.
I was going to say, that's such a good point. That means there are people out there who have no idea that Salman was in this movie because they missed it after the interval because they were getting popcorn and they left before Jhume Pathaan.
Salman was in it.
and then they'd go back to watch the movie again. So that's perfect marketing, I think, from Yash Raj.
Amazing.
Let's talk about the marketing for a minute.
Amrita, you have thoughts. You go ahead.
Oh my God, I have so many thoughts. So first of all, 1 month ago, there were people on Reddit who was just saying that, oh my God, why is this not, why is Shah Rukh not coming on all the shows? Why isn't he going on Kapil Sharma? Why isn't he going on Big Boss, etc.? And I was so pissed because it was a bunch of idiots who don't know anything about film talking about it. But also, are you really going to be teaching marketing to Shah Rukh Khan? The man invented marketing for Bollywood, he knows what he's doing, which is a good thing because YRF has no idea what it's doing. It hasn't known what it's doing for a very long time, but it especially has no idea what it's doing with this one. But I've seen a lot of people, for those who don't know, the marketing for this film was basically Shah Rukh doing Ask SRK sessions on Twitter, every once a week, I think, over the last
he's an indie filmmaker.
Yeah.
He made this movie on a Kickstarter. That's how he's doing promotion.
I'm an SRK, ask me anything.
And then, and I think this promotional strategy was also that they were just going to release the 2 songs. And this movie had 2 songs, that's it. And they did the 2 songs, in December. And then in January, the movie came out. And basically I've seen people saying that, oh, like, you know, SRK has done it again. He's reinvented film marketing again. And maybe now this is how Bollywood is going to do its marketing going forward. Yeah. And I'm like, no, that's not going to work, because this worked for Shah Rukh, because it's Shah Rukh friggin' Khan, you know? Like,
Can I say, I wonder, and I've been thinking this, because we keep saying this is Shah Rukh's big comeback, Shah Rukh after 4 years. But for me, Shah Rukh was the start of Brahmastra. Like, for me, Shah Rukh's entry in that film, we'll come on to Pathaan in a moment. I think his entry in Brahmastra was more powerful than his entry in Pathaan even. But for me, why do people not see that as a Shah Rukh Khan film as well? Because if I personally do, I think Shah Rukh was terrific in that movie. So why don't people see Shah Rukh as much as part of Brahmastra as they do Pathaan? I get it. I get the obvious thing that this is Shah Rukh's film, but why are we not counting that as his comeback?
I think this is the idea that Shah Rukh needs to carry things like Salman does. You know, it's like carrying a movie, carrying a project, and they need him to beat RRR. That's what people want, you know. It doesn't, it's not logical necessarily, but we want Shah Rukh to beat RRR, and we want Salman to beat RRR. Amir couldn't do it. And it's also just an idea that he was just on a break. Like, he didn't go away. Like, there was a pandemic, like, you know, 2 years there. He was like taking a break. And I don't know, but I want to come back to the marketing first before we get into it. Haroon, man, you're on BBC. Does that affect you? Like, when
of course it does. It means I have no content for my show. I have no interviews. I had to interview Shilpa Rao. Like,
Shilpa Rao.
I love Shilpa
Rao. Favorite singer.
Amazing. She's amazing. But the closest I could get to doing a Pathaan interview was interviewing Shilpa Rao for Besharam Rang, which I'm really happy I did. But I had none of the film's main cast on my show, and they weren't doing interviews. And that's a scary prospect as a journalist or as a presenter. The fact that certainly in entertainment journalism or entertainment presenting, I do need interviews. Like, I complain afterwards that they're unprofessional and that they turn up late and all the rest of it, but I still need those interviews for content on my show. So do I think it's clever marketing? I don't even know if there was a marketing strategy in place to begin with, but it does set a scary precedent, because if everybody kind of starts thinking we don't need to do interviews, we're going to do the same numbers as Pathaan, then I'm out of a job, basically.
I don't really think you'd have anything to be afraid of, because I think like the bumper opening that Pathaan had was really because of the fan clubs. Yeah. And I've seen like somebody else was pointing out that it's not just the Shah Rukh fan clubs, but it's also the Salman fan clubs. And they've never seen that before, you know, the two fan clubs working together, because usually, you know, it's like cats and dogs. But it really was like the first wave of videos that I saw of the Pathaan screenings was of all these Shah Rukh, what do you call it? Shah Rukh Universe or SRK Universe or whatever fan clubs. And I remember like back in the day when I would visit Cochin, I would see like they would like book out an entire theater, first day, first show. And they would put up this big banner that said, you know, Shah Rukh Khan fan club welcomes you to, you know, whatever the release is. It's usually something terrible like Dilwale or Happy New Year or something. But they would like make it like an event. And I thought that was like a Kerala thing, because fan culture in the South is so different. And I thought like that was like an extension, you know, like the Shah Rukh fans would also celebrate it the way other fan clubs would for other Southern stars. But then I realized, no, this is like an actual thing that happens in multiple Indian cities, and they're hella organized and they're mad as hell at whatever Shah Rukh's been going through, and they just really wanted Pathaan to do well, so they were just out there in full force. And that's a very 90s thing. Like, I can think of fan clubs for Salman, for Shah Rukh. For some extent, I can think of it for like Ajay Devgan and Akshay Kumar. But I don't think like Kartik Aaryan and Ayushmann Khurrana have like fan clubs who are like booking out theaters for them, you know, like that's not a thing.
Do not underestimate Kartik Aaryan's fan club. I have to say, I think we're underestimating how powerful that guy is becoming. Like,
well, we'll find out. We'll find out during Shehzada, because the Shehzada trailer played when I went for my first screening of Pathaan, and there was like nothing. Like it was crickets in the theater.
But that's what for Karthik Aaryan to generate some sort of a noise and do publicity, he has to do those mall rounds. He has to appear on,
he needs to do an interview with me.
Yeah.
You will, man. Don't worry. Haroon, it's a passing thing. You'll get your interviews back. Don't worry. Yeah. It's like, I'm moving to Birmingham for nothing.
Yeah.
So, but I do think there's a, by the way, Salman Khan fans are taking all of the credit for Pathaan's success. Your star couldn't even open your movie without our star. That's what the narrative is at the moment. So, but I do think there was a fear though, right? Because Shah Rukh's movies have not worked classically. And Amrita, you and me used to joke that, Shah Rukh's audience doesn't show up in theaters. They love him so much, but they don't go to theaters to, go watch him. But I do think there has been some sort of, like vengeance. I think there's a lot of narratives going around the movie. It will change in the cinema. It will change stardom. It will change press interactions. But I also think there was a lot of negativity around Shah Rukh. And I do think the audience had this goodwill that, we want to give him something back for everything that he's gone through in these last few years. And book again your ticket. And I do think there's some sort of, and I was thinking about this, like even Shah Rukh, right? He's like the biggest star, but somewhere there must have been some fear, right? Coming back on screen, Rais didn't work. Jab Harry Met Sejal didn't work. He had like 4 or 5 flops, one after the other, 0, right? And he's coming back with a movie that people on Twitter do not want him to do. They want him to do Swades. They want him to do, Chakte India. But he's doing Pathaan, right? And having such success, that must feel good, right? It must be like we're all giving Shah Rukh a hug. At least that's how I feel every time I'm booking a ticket. And I think that feeling is there with a lot of fans too. What do you guys think?
I agree, but also it's the usual thing, right? Like the man tried something different for like 10 years in a row, and then everybody was like, this sucks. And then he makes this one film and everybody's like, why isn't he doing something different? Why is he doing this? And I'm just like, you know what? Like, screw you. But also, I don't think that this movie is all that bad. I've seen a lot of people being like, oh, but it's very mid, it's very this, it's very that. And I'm like, let's not try to be too special, You guys were just retweeting about like RRR going to the Oscars and blah, blah, blah. And like, celebrating every Natu meme that was going around. And suddenly you're just like, well, this, like, it doesn't have any logic. And I'm just like, just give me a break.
I do think what Amrita was talking about with the marketing campaign, I do think the marketing campaign did work for the film. I think the 2 songs, the way they were released, the controversy around Bisha and Rung, I mean, they weren't stupid. They knew that there would be an element of, I think they knew there would be an element of controversy around that song. And I think this film has created a kind of fear of a FOMO culture in the past few days. Even people who were not going to watch this film are going and booking their tickets to watching it. Even like yesterday, I had family who were like, oh, we're going tonight. And I was like, yeah, good luck trying to get tickets. And it's because they just feel like they're not part of this. And I can't remember the last time a Bollywood film did that. Like I myself, there was a small part of me that was going to wait until Friday to watch the film. And the reason I watched it on Wednesday was because I was like, there's no way I can't be part of this, or I can't see spoilers online. All of those, even the spoilers, I think are really adding to this idea that people want to go and watch it before it's spoiled for them. So, I think it's worked for all those reasons.
Shall we get into the movie a little bit now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, what did you guys think? Like, I think I'm looking here at Maple Brownie's comment. She says, I feel people didn't understand this was part of the YRF universe and went in with the wrong expectations. I do think but I still feel like yesterday also in the meetup, people were saying, it's not as good as War.
I agree.
So let's start here. Let's rank the movies from the Spy Universe. What's the ranking? Haroon, you go first.
I know my ranking. I know
you do. I can see it in your face.
So in top place is War. In second place is Tiger Zinda Hai. In third place is Pathaan. And in fourth place is Ek Tha Tiger.
Ooh. So Joy, what's your ranking?
I think Pathaan wins right now just because it's so fresh in my memory. I don't have actively fond memories of watching any of the others as much as I had in this one. So probably just for that bias. So it's a close one between Pathaan and War. I really enjoyed War as well. But the Tiger movies, I have to go back and rewatch them to actually know where they stand in the whole YRF Spy Universe ranking. But coming back to Pathaan itself, it's freaking, when I was taking notes, today, this morning, to say anything about the movie today, it was so vividly, ingrained in my mind how easily the sequences came one after another. So I could write down just this happened after that, this happened after that. So that, as Amrita said, this is a really easily consumable, digestible movie. And this movie needed to do that. Here's your masala entertainment. Eat it, and we ate it.
Amrita, where does it stand?
So I actually went back and watched Ek Tha Tiger after I watched Pathaan because for reasons I will explain later. But I would say Ek Tha Tiger, War, Pathaan, Tiger Zinda Hai.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with. I probably the Ali Abbas Zafar is slightly higher for me, and I think that's where I wanted to kick off. Basically, I think.
What is your ranking then? What's your?
So it's Ek Tha Tiger.
Yeah.
Then
Ek Tha Tiger is Kabir Khan though.
Yeah, Kabir Khan. Then the other Tiger movie, Tiger Zinda Hai.
Right.
Then Pathaan. Then War.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. And
Pathaan's a solid third for all of us, by the way, except for Sujoy.
I'll come back.
So that's what I want to say. I feel and I think that's what a lot of people are trying to say in their. Not that I want to put words in their mouth, but I think the movie is well structured, but it's not well written necessarily. I do not think that. I think both Kabir Khan and Ali Abbas Zafar are vastly more talented filmmakers than Siddharth Anand is.
Yeah.
But Siddharth Anand does amazing set pieces, and he has the budget that none of the Tiger movies had. I think that's the thing with the Tiger movies. They were just movies on their own. There was no idea of making a universe around it. So they did never cater to that, the first Tiger is almost like a rom-com in a way, and then it becomes much, much bigger than it is. But, and Ali Abbas Zafar really wanted to sequelize it, but he didn't the stunts became bigger, the guns became bigger, Zoya got a proper action scene. And those are really how you make a sequel, but that's not how you make a universe. I think now, Pathaan is the first movie that's actually actively making a universe. I don't even think War wanted to do that. They had their idea after.
I saw this clip. I saw this clip on Twitter where there's a scene with Tiger Shroff's character in War where he says something in the lift or presses a button, and there's a reference to Tiger. So I think that's where they kind of planted the seed, but I haven't. I'd have to watch it again to know properly.
Yeah, I think they've done a lot of retroactive work.
That was the boobs.
Oh, I didn't watch it.
The door number was 69, and the code for the lift was 80085, which spells out as boobs. So they were like, Siddharth Anand, we know what you're up to.
It's within the Siddharth Anand universe. But
They got me.
But I do think they retroactively started to make kind of this universe, and I think that's what they're kind of pushing for. And that's why there's the whole interval scene. That's why there's a tie-in to the next movie that's going to be coming. And I think in the next movie they probably have to then tie in the War universe in some way or the other. I think the big question that people are wondering is how are they going to fit Tiger in it, right? Tiger Shroff in it. because he did die.
Isn't he
But
dead?
I think, sorry?
Isn't he dead?
Yes.
But I think making war only about Hrithik is a mistake. I don't think Hrithik was the big star and things like that, but I think Tiger Shroff was a big element, and his love for Hrithik was a big element. I think, you need to make like a spurned lover sequel to make that thing happen in the next one. Yeah. But yeah, so like, I mean, Haroon, man, what did you think of the movie? Let's get into it a little bit.
I'm so conflicted about this film. I'll be really honest with you. Even after watching it twice, I'm really conflicted because I loved it. I loved it the first time I watched it. I loved it even more the second time I watched it. And yet I know it's so deeply flawed. I don't know where I sit on the film's political kind of what its politics are. I thought it was more basic the first time I watched it. The second time I watched it, I was like, oh, maybe I've been conned by this film a little bit. I think Shah Rukh is great, but that's just because he is Shah Rukh. I didn't feel like Shah Rukh was performing particularly well in this film. I thought Shah Rukh was doing a bit of a Salman and just being himself, actually. I thought his persona was kind of carrying the movie more than his performance was. And surprisingly, John was really good. And I didn't think I was going to come out of the film saying that. I mean, I knew everything I expected from Deepika, I got. She looks amazing. Her action sequences were brilliant. I thought her performance was strong. I thought the chemistry between her and Shah Rukh was brilliant. It was sizzling. I was saying, like, you wouldn't believe this is the same Shanti Priya and Om from Om Shanti Om. Like, it was on fire. That scene where he's changing her bandages, the scene when he's taking the fingerprints off her thigh, like, there is real palpable sizzling chemistry there. But yet, I don't know, I feel some sort of way about this movie. There's something not quite right for me.
Is it the political side, or is it the filmmaking side, or the storytelling? What is it?
No, I think for me, it's a case of it felt like all of these set pieces were stitched together with not much thought to the screenplay. Loads, and they could have removed a couple of those and focused a bit more on character development rather than forcing in an ice skating sequence or a parachuting sequence, or the VFX for me were very poor. Watching it a second time as well, it was embarrassing. And I was thinking to myself, the VFX alone, if this was not a Shah Rukh Khan film, I don't know if I would have the heart to accept, even give it the kind of license that I've given it. I don't know if I'd be able to accept that. Yeah. What did you guys think?
I agree. Yeah, I agree. Like, the VFX was terrible. Like, but I knew it was going to be terrible going into the movie because it's YRF VFX. Or YVFX?
YFX.
YFX.
That's the perfect name. YFX.
Where effects? Where are the effects?
I'll give you a better one. What is Gomorrah?
I think they make it on MS Paint or something. Like, it's just terrible. But I knew it was going to be terrible going in because I already knew who was doing it. I knew it wasn't RCE. And I hope Aditya Chopra can get over himself and just, contract it out to RCE in the forthcoming films if he actually wants to put out a world-beating product. And that's a big if. But I think the politics of it was, I've seen people talk about how terrible the politics are, and I've seen people talk about how good the politics of the film are. And I get where both of those people are coming from, but I think that this is a movie that basically is about spies. It's about Indian spies. So therefore, it's going to be talking about certain issues, and it's going to be talking about a certain geopolitical context that is inescapable. There's never going to be an Indian spy movie, especially in this climate where they're just like, oh, actually, you know what? Kashmir deserves its independence. That is never going to happen. I'm sorry, you guys. Shah Rukh, not just Shah Rukh, whoever it is, an Indian film is not going to say that. So I get what the politics of this film are, and I don't think it's something that deserves the amount of scrutiny that it is getting. And I also think that's getting the amount of scrutiny that it is getting right now because it's a Shah Rukh film. And there is a feeling, like somebody on Twitter said it perfectly. They said that just because the right wing in India is targeting Shah Rukh so much, the left wing has now adopted Shah Rukh as their secular bae. And that's really not what he is trying to do with his life. It's never been what Shah Rukh's gig is. Like, if you ever ask Shah Rukh, like about politics, he'd always tell you that I'm an actor. I do like acting, So that's one thing. From a filmmaking point of view, I feel like this is a very over-edited film, like they want to keep it going. They want to make it snappy. And what that does is that it has these really deep emotional beats. Like, the part where Pathaan is telling Rubai about his past, for example, or about his, the first time I watched this movie and he told her about, the whole Afghanistan sequence, about his adoption and stuff like that. Maybe it's because I was hungry and it was really early in the morning, but I cried. I was just
I did too.
God.
I did too.
Right? And then the second part where Rubai just starts talking about her dad getting tortured in prison. He literally just says, "Tum apni neend mein apne abba ko yaad kar rahi thi," and then she's like, "Abba," and then she just starts telling this very dark, very personal story with no setup whatsoever. So those things, I feel like this movie has really great emotional beats, but the setup or the transition into those beats is very curtailed. And that is because the movie just wants to be on the go all the time. And it's afraid that, those moments are going to just drag it down. And that's a disservice to everything that this movie is trying to achieve, I think. But also there's obviously, when you have Shah Rukh in a film, Shah Rukh is what Haroon was saying. Shah Rukh will help you gloss over certain rough edges, That's why he's Shah Rukh Khan. That's the whole star power that he has. That's his job. And that's why Haroon was saying, he feels like Brahmastra was Shah Rukh's movie, because he was the one person in that film who could say those ridiculous dialogues like he meant it, you believed him when he was in there and talking about whatever, Vanarastra or whatever. And you were just yeah, he's got a Vanarastra,
Or just Rakh the Beach, saying it 50 times and not making it sound ridiculous.
I literally laughed out loud when I was oh, that's what you're calling the MacGuffin in this movie. But Shah Rukh sells it, and I especially love the fact that, they managed to retain the Shah Rukhness in his character, where they say, when they're talking about Jim or when they're talking about Kabir, they're Ashutosh Rana's character says, वो पठान साहब जैसे नहीं थे, जो कि अपनी दिल की सुनते हैं और फिर अपने superiors की, And then all throughout the film, every time John gives him a choice, of saving somebody or saving Rubai or whoever, or doing what is technically correct, he always takes that choice to do what is emotionally right rather than what is logically correct. And I thought that was a lovely little homage to the Shah Rukh that we know and we love.
I think Shrimi Verma had tweeted oh, it's my Shah Rukh is on screen. I feel emotional. And I that hit me. It's he's our Shah Rukh. Whoever you are, be it you're Indian, he's your Shah Rukh. You're Muslim, he's your Shah Rukh. You're Pakistani, he's your Shah Rukh. It doesn't make any sense. And I think that's the power of Shah Rukh.
You're German, it's your Shah Rukh.
Yeah, exactly. It's this idea of this unity that he presents, and he presents it in this movie. And it made me remind almost of the way Top Gun is with Tom Cruise. The last Top Gun, it's not just about, a sequel to or an action sequence to a movie that came out 20 years ago. That movie is about Tom Cruise as a last living Hollywood star and still being, pulling people to audiences and holding his own when everything has moved on. And I think with Shah Rukh is the same thing. He presents this idea of love and unity across borders, across religions. And I knew going in as a Pakistani, as a Muslim, I would not be offended by this movie. I knew I was in safe hands. And I do not have that when I watch a Siddharth Malhotra movie or I watch even a Ranveer Singh movie. And Haroon, I know you and me have had this back and forth a lot of times. I know I do not have that faith in a Ranveer Singh movie. I had 100% faith in Amir, in Shah Rukh, in Salman, even Ranveer Kapoor, I have faith. He won't. Kareena Kapoor, I have that faith. But there's other stars, I do not have that faith. And I think the problem with them is that it is kind of a milquetoast unity where it's not enough for the right wing and it's not enough for the left wing ultra liberal crowd. I could point 1,000 things in this movie that's not enough. Like I could say, when she straight up asks him, "Are you a Muslim?" Why doesn't he just say yes? How can you be a Pathaan and the whole movie is about being Pathaan, but you are never a Muslim? There's a lot of these things that I can kind of pick up here and there. But it's still much, much better than so many other movies. I mean, you watch Mission Majnu, I avoided it because I knew what kind of like terrible, it's the worst of the worst that they could present, right? And Shah Rukh would never do that. I have faith in my Shah Rukh. He would never star in a Mission Majnu. He would never star in a Sher Shah.
But don't you worry that this film is the first step towards dilution of the Shah Rukh that we know and love? Because I did feel that the second time I watched the movie, because I have the same faith and trust that you've just mentioned. And I also think the politics of this film are far better than anything I've watched in this space, in this kind of like patriotic space for a long, long time, and like miles better than something like Mission Majnu. Yeah. But there are little things where I just wonder, is Shah Rukh trying to appease a certain crowd that he might have lost over the last few years? Is he trying to, like you said, why couldn't he just be a Muslim character? Is Deepika, we know the kind of backlash she's had for the last 2-3 years. Is her character this rogue ISI spy to kind of join her alliances with India and show that she's patriotic in that sense? It made me question. It's so hard to consume this film outside of the current political climate. It's almost impossible.
It's also the fact that, if Deepika is supposed to be a Pakistani Muslim, like the way she's clothed, the Besharam thing becomes a whole different thing. She's like just downing whiskey shots left and right. Zoya would never. I'm just saying. Zoya comes at the embassy in a shalwar kameez. It's a good Pakistani woman.
I actually had a eureka moment when, so I went to a different movie chain this time around. I usually go to PVR where, they don't really do, they're too busy showing us ads to play the national anthem. But I went to this other, multiplex thing where they do play the national anthem before the movie plays. And I have a lot of opinions about playing things like national anthems before a piece of entertainment.
Do you still need to stand up for that? Is that...
Yes. Yeah.
You stand up?
Yeah. Wow. Unless you want like some random uncle to get in your face.
Beat you up. Yeah, it's, there's violence.
You just, So that is going on. And so I went with a friend of mine who's Bengali, and the national anthem played and everybody was just like, "Oh, we have to get to our feet. So fine, I got to my feet. And I was feeling pretty sullen about it. And then the song started playing and she started singing it in Bengali, like the original Bengali. And I was like, you know what? Like, this is like a really nice song. Like, I really enjoy the song. And it has a history and a meaning that is so different from what these people are trying to make it out to be. And I don't know if I'm okay with them sort of taking it over. And I was just like, you know what? Like, if you're going to be singing, and I went to a Bengali school, so I do know the Bengali words. So I was like, you know what? We're just going to sing this in Bengali. And I don't give a F. Like, and so the two of us were just sitting there, like, singing it in Bengali. And I was like, thinking that was basically what this particular movie is also trying to do in a sense, in that you cannot, like Haroon said, and you cannot forget the political context outside of this movie right now, because it's just too much in your face. There's too much violence, there is too much hatred, there's too much vitriol, and you cannot forget that. But also, you cannot allow that to stop you from enjoying the things that you enjoy and love the things that you love.
I think this movie just gives us some breathing space, some time to just like relax a little bit, and that's already a lot compared to every other movie that's come out, right? Like, it's just like, I'm not going to get punched in the face by this movie. I feel that's kind of okay. I'll take it. It's not perfect, but I'll take it. Suja, you were going to say something.
For me, it is perfect. I would say.
Full recency bias for Suja.
Like, I am that basic, right? I need to go to the cinema. I am blessed with the sights of Deepika, John, Shah Rukh looking hot. They are dancing. They are, making out. They have their heist scenes. They have cracking chemistry, and Abbas Tarwala is at the top of his game, writing Kader Khan level dialogues that I can recite all day long. They have sequences that are paying homage to other spy movies that exist in pop culture, from Mission Impossible to James Bond. They are inspired by Uncharted. They are having a Bucky and a Steve moment in Winter Soldier. Everything is happening all at once, and I'm loving it. The second time we watched it yesterday, I had a blast. I can't complain, because yes, now that I introspect, obviously all the that the movie is trying to say, that they are more obvious than not. But whilst I'm enjoying the movie, I think I let that go, because this movie is, as you said, bam, 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 and I freaking loved it, man.
Talking about Abbas Tarwala's dialogues, the opening scene where he's talking about Pathaan zinda hai, and then he says, "Ghungru toot gaye rafe, ab naach." I was so sold. Right there, I was sold. I was like, this is the best movie ever. It's only January 2023.
And I was also like a star that can pronounce the word ghungru and nach the way they're supposed to, even like basic diction has gone away. Rafe, like there's certain words that Shah Rukh pronounces in the correct way, and it hits you in IMAX audio. Like, okay, this is how you're supposed to say words, right? And Shah Rukh kind of brings that star quality back to us.
You could really tell that difference in dialogue delivery between Shah Rukh and John. The scenes where John is on the video call and he's talking to all the raw agents sat around, and Dimple Kapadia's character has just died, and the way he's saying things is not, as much as I think John was very good in this, and I think we should talk about John as well, but I think, even though Shah Rukh is the guy, but for me, you could really tell the difference of how articulate Shah Rukh is, how well he can present. Like, he is just, there's no comparison with anyone. The way he can kind of pronounce things, the way he can sell things, the way he can convince you, the kind of conviction he has in every dialogue, I bought into that completely. Also,
the idea that Shah Rukh does, and it's really kind of stood out to me, that he tells a corny joke knowing that it's a corny joke.
Yeah.
I know that this is a dad joke, this is an uncle joke, but you're still going to laugh because I'm going to be charming with my dimples and you're going to melt.
Did you feel
that 20,000 boobles thing? It was so terrible, but it's so funny though when Shah Rukh says it.
Did you feel like there was scenes that had been cut out? I mean, I think, because I felt like when they arrive in Russia and they check into that hotel and they're in the honeymoon suite, I felt like there were scenes missing before that. Like, I felt like something was missing, and I mean, I hope they do release like an unedited version or a director's cut or something of this. I mean, we have hope. I haven't seen one arrive from Bollywood before, but I hope they do, because I felt like there was probably more scenes between Pathaan and Rubai that were missing. That I would have liked to see more of that.
I think that's where the skill of filmmaking in Siddharth Anand is not there. I felt like even in every action sequence, it needed to have one extra beat at the end of it to let us clap, let us feel joy and happiness. And I think Rajamouli is really good at that. Like, just to kind of, compare him with the biggest filmmaker currently, but he can really like make you savor that action sequence. And Siddharth does none of that. Every time an action sequence is done, he moves straight away with a very, very hard cut. Like, this segment is done, so the helicopter the whole first sequence is very like James Bond, right? Like, he's like action sequence straight away, cut over somewhere else. And it's like all of those cuts do not make sense. And I think what you were saying about, Deepika suddenly talking about Abu or suddenly arriving here, I think a lot of people also had a lot of problems with the time jumps, because they're 4 years, 5 years. Is he gone? Where is he now? Is he in Russia? Is he in Paris? And I think
there's a flashback within a flashback.
Yeah. And I think those things are either because they're just cutting it very heavily, or the skill making is not there. But I think there's an over reliance on Shah Rukh being Shah Rukh and carrying us through all of that. And I think if you're not as connected with Shah Rukh, not that I'm saying, Haroon, you aren't, but I think if you feel less of that charm.
How dare you question my Shah Rukh Khan?
No, but I think it grades a lot more. But I do think there's definitely a skill factor that's lacking there. Either the editing is too hard, or they didn't structure it well enough, or they needed to, plot out the things more. I do think I found it hilarious that I kept forgetting also in that sequence with Deepika. It's like, have we ever had a Pakistani with that accent speaking Urdu? I know we make fun of the janabs and the adabs, but like, what is this? Like, Deepika puts in no effort.
But also her Assalamu Alaikum was really bad.
Everything was bad. It was like that bakwas dictionary dialogue delivery. But also, like, Deepika is not the greatest in diction. It's not, I would not say that's her strength necessarily. But here it kind of like almost took on hilarious proportions where, last time it was Katrina doing it, and it didn't bother me as much as it did with Deepika, which is saying something, right?
But then it's even worse because she says that is actually one of my favorite moments of this film, is where she says Assalamu alaikum, and he's behind her and he goes Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and his pronunciation is so good, like
so good. Yeah, maybe that's a subliminal hit that us Pakistanis can't speak Urdu anymore, and like the proper Indians still have like preserved the language. Who knows?
But for Shah Rukh, it's not just the accent, but it's also his voice. Like the man, like especially on like IMAX audio, like you hear his friggin' voice, and you're just like, that is sexy AF.
He has that gruff, like bassy when he says "notch." He adds he lowers it an octave.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
He knows what he's doing. He's at the top of his game. Yeah. There was anyway, but then going back to John, I mean, how hot is John Abraham? Oh my Lord. But also it was really funny because while they didn't do any traditional interviews, they did, YRF did these really sad interviews with cast and crew where, they just uploaded it to YouTube and it's just asking them a set of questions. And it was really funny because Deepika came on and Deepika was they were how hard did you have to work on your body? And she was like, oh my God, it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I had to I don't want to tell you what my diet was because I don't want to influence people badly.
I thought that was so good though, that she, I thought that was really so good.
Yeah. It displayed a level of thinking and thought that, I don't generally associate with a lot of people in Bollywood. But she was talking about how hard she trained, and then she was talking about how hard Shah Rukh trained, and it was all these things. And then it came to John, and John was like, yeah, no, I didn't do anything different.
He's like, I just took off my shirt.
He was like, I didn't even know that I had to take off my shirt. Sid just came up to me and told me to do it, and I just did.
Just another Tuesday.
He was just I woke up like this, bitch. What can I tell you? John is basically the Asim Bernie of Bollywood, where I do this every day,
You got Haroon here. He's 100 times more fitter than I am.
You take John, I'll take Shah Rukh. It's fine.
You take Shah Rukh, yeah. But let's talk a bit about John a little bit more. But because I do think he was excellent. Like he was imposing. Like he was just towering up above a Shah Rukh. And it really shows because it needed that kind of, because it's Shah Rukh, so you almost believe he can do anything on screen. But they made John so strong that you think, oh no, maybe he can do everything. Maybe he can take this guy out.
No, that's the whole thing, that the villain has to be stronger than the hero. And that has to be the threat, right? The villain has to be indestructible. And never throughout the movie they made, Jim to be any weaker. Like Pathaan never defeats Jim. Jim only fails because of, the circumstances and because of the, because of script. But Pathaan can never win over Jim. That's the whole point. And that's why he's a threat. And I think that was a beautiful thing, and John is taller, stronger, more fit, and he can punch the shit out of Pathaan.
The scene where they're fighting in that old abandoned house and he punches the door of the fridge.
Yeah.
I was like, I believe that. John can absolutely punch through like a fridge door, like the guy's built.
Yeah.
But also, it was also kind of unintentionally funny at times because in their first exchange, John says to Pathaan, the difference between you and me is that I thought I was her lover and you think you are her son. And I was like, damn, John and Deepika Padukone were like a couple. And then he was like, Bharat Ma. And I was like, oh.
That was a segue.
I think John works so well. Firstly, I think his backstory is stronger than Pathaan's backstory.
Yes.
Yeah.
You do feel for him as this man who's lost his wife and unborn child. You have compassion for his character as a villain. And also it was that whole Maula Jat Nuri Nut kind of the villains. Again, Nuri Nut's backstory was a lot stronger than Maula Jat's was. So I felt for him. And yes, what he's doing is wrong. And yes, he's a bad man, but you at least have a reasoning for why he's behaving the way he is. And also, I think they are clever because they work to John's strengths. They know what his limitations are as an actor. He has got a very brooding expression, which works to his advantage. His physicality works to his advantage. And they use those very, very well. It did take me back to John Abraham from Doom. And it did, bring back those kinds of vibes, and even Race 2, where he plays a villain as well. But I kind of, this is my special fan theory. I wish they had tied in Doom into this universe, and he was that same John from that first Doom movie.
Yeah, I do feel
a little. Sorry, Asim, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I do feel Yashraj always makes their villains fall off a cliff. Like every movie, especially John. John hasn't done a YRF movie in 20 years, and they make him fall off a cliff again. That's the ending that they always have. Chup Chap Charlie also fell off the cliff.
The body was never found, and so a future setup for a future Spy Universe movie. But I was saying, there's also a hint of John is just now irredeemable, and he's gotten crazy in his mission because he's saying that ultimatum thing right on the video call and says this is not a warning, this is an ultimatum. And then he breaks character and he just starts giggling because that's how it is. He's kind of this chaotic anarchist in his head, and he doesn't care about anything else. He doesn't care about money. So he is almost like the League of Shadows Bane kind of a thing, but also all he seeks is whatever his mission is, to make people negotiate with him.
किसके कुत्ते बोल रहे हैं? Yeah. No, I like because John, clearly the way he was playing it, he was you could see he's a mercenary now. He's not a soldier anymore. He's a mercenary. Yeah. And I think, but he still has that charm, that line delivery he has with Deepika, where Deepika asks, "Doomna hai kya?" And he says, "I know the difference between lava and the sea ocean."
That was excellent.
Loved it. And still charming, but still sexy, but he knows where the mission is, right?
But
And
you know, like that. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go.
No, I was going to say, like, that kind of moment, like, I would love to have known, like, was there might have been a romance between Jim and Rubai. And I wish the film had given me more of that than some of the set action sequences, because I got my fill of that with 4 or 5. I would have swapped some of those for more sequences. Like, I reckon they probably did have a romance back in the day. That's probably how they got together. Like, my imagination was running wild, but I love that dialogue. It was very good.
Yeah. I mean, and the other thing I really liked about it is that, and I've literally never seen this in an Indian movie, that the villain is an Indian soldier, an ex-Indian soldier. I mean, I cannot remember this. It's always a Pakistani soldier or somewhere like some foreign country. You're on mute, Amrita.
Oh, no, I did that. Yeah.
No, still on mute. Yeah. Hold on.
Why is
Amrita,
you keep muting me?
Sorry.
Mehuna.
Mehuna? Yes, Mehuna. Right. Yeah. But it's been a while, right? It's been a while.
Yeah.
And that was also kind of a, So, Amrit, are you kicking out Amrita again? What's happening?
I'm not doing anything.
I'm going to switch to another video because my phone is about to give up. So
Okay.
I'm here though. I'm listening.
Okay. So I really love that part of it. Cause I've rarely seen it. Mehuna, it's been ages. And I thought that was a very brave thing, even for the current climate of India to, make that kind of storyline. And I also like that. I mean, okay, they do say that he's being funded by a Pakistani general. But I love that line that Deepika that says that, if my people knew what he's doing, they would hang him. And again, that is a line that the movie is giving grace to Pakistanis that most movies wouldn't do that anymore, just give that moment to Pakistan. And I thought that I took it on with the, I accepted their generosity in a way in that filmmaking. I appreciate it.
But also, it's not a film about India and Pakistan. And I think that's what I really appreciated about it. Look, that the film's going to need a villain from somewhere, or it's going to need a kind of a catalyst for why evil is happening. And the fact that it was set up in the way it was, I didn't mind. Deepika's character is crucial in that kind of softening of the idea that the main evil comes from a Pakistani person, because she kind of counteracts that with that dialogue, which I think is great. But also, this is about the nuance in the film. They probably only mentioned Pakistan 3 or 4 times in the entire movie. There was only one Janab in the entire film. It
started with the Janab. The first was the Janab. Get the Janab out of the way. Janab, aapko cancer hai.
And then it's done. But, it does make a big difference. Those little moments, those little nuances make a huge difference.
Yeah. And
the biggest nuance that affected me, was the sacrifice or the self-sacrifice that Dimple does. And it kind of shows it's not just the frontline soldiers or the spies who are the brave, the patriots, or the people who are putting their lives on the, at risk, but it's also the doctors, the researchers, the scientists. And we are just recovering from a pandemic. And in India, at least, a lot of the doctors died, and a lot of the doctors were actually beaten up by people because, they didn't get vaccines at the right time, and all of that. The infrastructure isn't there. We don't necessarily put our doctors on any pedestals, and researchers or science obviously is not at any sort of respectable pedestal in our society in India. And I think they kind of did that with this movie, Dimple and the researchers in the lab, when they got exposed to the virus and they self-sacrificed for the nation. That moment took me oh, okay, this is a different conversation that this movie is showing as well.
Yeah,
and
I think there was a definite nod to COVID-19 with that sequence, like, you know, the sacrifices they're doing, and it's been across the board. I mean, in the UK, we see the same thing happening to the you know, the hate that the people that took care of us are getting from even the government. You know, at the moment, it's just horrible. You know, but two things I really appreciated is the one thing I really appreciated is that even though Pakistan is involved, they do show the fact that it didn't come out of nothing. That the catalyst was Article 370 being, you know, taken away. So I think that there's that the movie again gives us, which I feel in the current climate is quite brave. And I think all of that works towards the end, where the big line at the end is Jai Hind. And I was clapping. You know, I was like, yes, Jai Hind, indeed, you know. And
films, we didn't mind this. Sorry to interrupt. We didn't mind this back in the, like, as somebody who's not Indian, I am totally for going into a film and being Jai Hind, Chak De India by the end. I remember in Chak De India, the climax sequence, I felt more patriotic than most Indians in the screening. Like, I was part of that excitement and that kind of feeling, that euphoria. And this film does give you the same, but we've been let down by Bollywood over the last 4 or 5 years so much that it's hard to almost find that feeling again. And this film gets that right. Sorry, Asim, I interrupted you.
No, I was just waiting for Amrita to get back, because I think we've talked an hour about the movie, but we have not talked about the thing I want to talk about is that interval sequence. We can spoil.
Oh, can I say two things before that, though, very quickly? Because we haven't spoken about that. Two things. Number one, Deepika Padukone is stunning. Like stunning. Like, beautiful to another level. That swimming pool sequence where she just, her head comes out of the water. Wow. She is magical. And on that note, in a film where there is Deepika Padukone, I also want to say Dimple Kapadia is stunning. That's the other thing I want to say.
Yeah.
She looks even hot in like that scientist suit. She's just like a hot lady, man.
See, there's a reason why I thought like John and she were getting it on, you know. But also, like, in that same sequence where, you know, Pathaan, like the John reveal comes in the swimming pool, she comes out of the water and she's wearing these snake earrings. And I was just like, that is so hot. Yeah. But also, and then again, like when they're in Russia and he's telling her about, like, you know, his Dukh Bari kahani. And, she says, Subhanallah. And then she just sort of like gazes at him. I've never seen, like, this is only the second, and I've seen like pretty much all Deepika movies, but this is, I think, the only second time after Ram Leela that I've seen her put in like that level of attraction towards like a co-star. And I think that she has like great chemistry with like a number of people. Like, I thought she, you know, with like obviously Ranbir, but also Irfan, I think, in Piku. But I don't know, there was just something like they just like ratcheted up the hotness meter in this particular film, both Deepika and Shah Rukh, you know, they were just full on. And by the time you saw Jhume Jo Pathaan at the end, and they're just sort of like nuzzling each other, and I was just like, whoo, hot. It was like really hot.
Sorry, go on.
People at the meetup yesterday, they were quite not appreciative of the fashion choices that Deepika was made to have at Jhume Jo Pathaan. They were like, why is she wearing Primark clothes for Jhume Jo Pathaan?
That was our friend Yamini, right? That was at that point, I didn't know anything. I don't know enough about fashion to comment about that. Amrita, were the clothes cheap? Did the clothes look cheap to you?
They're very, like, I think there's like a thought behind it. So I am 100% sure that come summer, all the Nimba Nibbis that like go to Europe for the summer are going to be all over Instagram in the exact same spots, in the exact same poses, wearing the exact same clothes. I will write it to you right now.
I think the styling was excellent, like really excellent. I think she was styled better than she was styled in Triple X, and that was a similar kind of action heroine kind of figure she was playing. But there's like a Catwoman suit that she's wearing at one point. Everything about her character is sexy, and yet she's got substance, which was amazing.
Even
the one scene where she's seducing the uncle Grego or whatever, like she's wearing like her hair back and like the black dress with the split leg, and she almost reminded me of an amalgamation of a lot of Bond girls together, and she's so freaking hot, man.
Yeah, but beside the hotness of it, I think she pulls off the action sequences amazingly. Like kick she does. The best part was when she uses her legs to push Shah Rukh back, like handle it, is one of the coolest things I've seen. And this is something I appreciated throughout the movie. And again, I'm pushing towards the climax scene of the train, like, subtly. I love that every character had their own fighting style. John's was different from Shah Rukh's, and Deepika's was very different from even Zoya, in Tiger. They were totally different because her legs are so long. She's using them much better. And like the way she flips over that, whoever the stunt double was, it's very well done. The editing, especially when you compare it to some sequences that just need face morphing, right? Like the fight sequences work because they're not using face morphing as much. They're using a stunt double. And that is what you need to pull it off really well. Also in the first fight sequence with Shah Rukh, that's pretty much with a stunt double. And those powerful kicks that they're giving, Shah Rukh can never put that power behind a kick, but a stunt double can. But you need the hair to hide the face, and you need the right kind of lighting. But I want to get back to the train sequence, and I think it's kind of the best and the worst because there's so much face morphing, especially with Shah Rukh, that it really starts looking odd, and those bad YFX special effects really start, showing, really badly. But oh my God, what was the reaction like when that scarf dropped? From the hole in the train. Amrita, what happened on your end?
No, Haroon, you go first.
Go.
No, Sujoy was the one who was ready to go. Sujoy,
Sujoy was the reaction.
Pretty much. I erupted, So it was kind of ruined for me by Twitter on the day of it trended, as I didn't even need to look at anything.
Yeah.
And like it was already like hashtag Salman in Pathaan. And I was like, okay, fine. I mean, we knew it was going to happen, but still you've confirmed it now. But I did not know the extent to which this movie would go to, flesh it out. And we get an actual action sequence with Bhai interacting with Salman, bringing Karan Arjun back into the, the mix, and the chemistry them to have, like the pyar and the mohabbat and the bhaichara that they bring to this scene, man. It's so good. Like them, Bhai holding him and flipping him on the side in that action sequence was so good. And then Shah Rukh and them, with the big gun firing at the helicopter, and then Salman just stops at one point and just leans on Shah Rukh, and it was like, oh my God, the special effects are so terrible, but I love this scene because Bhai and Shah Rukh are together in the scene. Like, oh my God, I totally lost my voice on Wednesday because I was screaming so much. I was, whistling like a fool. It was everything I wanted that I did not know, and like, oh, so good. Like the year has peaked for me.
The scene where that exact scene where Salman picks up Shah Rukh and flings him towards the bad guys, and then Shah Rukh gives that flying kick. Mm-hmm. That is literally where my brain went, Mere Karan Arjun aa gaye. I literally had that thought. It was literally Mere Karan Arjun aa gaye.
On Wednesday, somebody tweeted the happiest person now, and there was a picture of Rakhi.
But it's crazy. That movie came out 30 years ago, and it still has a chokehold over all our memories. But yeah, but also I just realized as Sujoy was speaking that, that move where Bhai leans on Shah Rukh's shoulder, all of them, like Deepika, John, Salman, all of them have that moment where they're all invading Shah Rukh's space and they're all right next to his face and leaning on his shoulder. And it's, with the exception of Salman, when John and Deepika do it, it's really sexy. I totally ship John and Shah Rukh together as well as John and Deepika. Bhai needs to lay off the Botox a little bit though. I was just Bhai's face is not moving anymore.
I have so many thoughts on this sequence, and also talking of Botox, we need to come back to Shah Rukh's appearance at some point as well. But for me, it was a bittersweet moment when that scarf dropped, because I felt like Salman got a stronger entry than Shah Rukh got in the film. In the screening that I watched the first time, the audience wasn't sure when to clap for Shah Rukh's entry, because the way he's introduced is you first get a lock of his hair, then you get an eye, then you get his face, and it's not until he actually breaks free and then, there was a hesitation for the audience to know what his entry is. Whereas with Salman, as soon as the scarf drops, there was just eruption, like you said, Sujoy. There was eruption of cheers,
and the tiger theme plays.
Yeah, and that music is used so well as well in that sequence. That scene for me is symbolic in so many ways. Firstly, I love that these two heroes, these superstars, are selfless enough to be able to use one another's stardom in the right way. That Salman's entry does add a lot of power to this film. It does add a lot of weight to the kind of relevance of this movie as well. And Shah Rukh gets that. And I love that. I love that Salman is willing to help Shah Rukh. I love that Shah Rukh is willing to take Salman's help. And the way they behave, jumping on one another's shoulder, is symbolic of their kind of careers in Bollywood as well. They have gone ahead of one another at some points, yet they have helped one another as well. So yeah, it was emotional. It was an emotional scene. But
also there's so many meta moments within that sequence as well. Bhai bahut aaram kar liya, ab chalo, kaam pe lag jao. That's you've been resting for 4 years now, get on.
But also as a
Bhag Pathaan Bhag.
Yeah, Bhag Pathaan Bhag, Bhag Arjun Bhag,
As a married man, I know bringing painkillers, knowing that the person is going to be hurt, it speaks to a deep level of care. I just have to add that,
But what a shame that it was let down by those special effects. That is actually where the VFX are the very worst in the movie.
Very worst. Yeah. It there's certain sequences, it becomes like a video game, not even a good PS4, like a mobile phone video game when they're running over the train and stuff like that. And it's again because we love these stars together. We're engrossed that they kind of get away with it. But I understand if you don't have that affinity or connection with these stars, it might be the feeling that I have when I watch a Chiranjeevi movie, what nonsense is this, So I can totally get that on board.
Speaking of which, Salman cameo in the Chidwi was so bad. It doesn't necessarily work. A Salman cameo is not enough. When Salman gives a shit about the cameo, yes, then it works. That's why Salman did a goodwill cameo in Godfather and we were making fun out of it. But here it's we are out of our minds, blown away,
It's always that thing with Salman. When he wants to do it, he's on fire, he's unstoppable. But when he doesn't want to do it, he's just dragging his feet and it's just impossible to even, watch what he's doing. But again, speaking of action, I love that they had a totally different fighting style. And you could really see where Salman had a brawler, a strong built kind of fighting style, and Shah Rukh had a very light kung fu Filipino martial arts kind of style where he's doing kick and a punch at the same time. Salman can't move his body in two ways at the same time. That's not possible. Shah Rukh can punch here and kick over there, but Salman can't. You just take the punch, hit me with the chair and then I'll punch you, that kind of thing.
You know what I quite liked, and I hadn't noticed it in the Tiger movies, is the use of the scarf, the use of this prop. I don't remember it being such a prop in the earlier movies, but I quite like it's almost like, Captain America's shield, or it plays a role in itself, which I quite liked in that sequence.
It never did. I don't think it was such a big thing, and now it has become a thing. Like even in the promotion for, he's like the scarf is there, he's wearing it, and I don't think. And I mean that's the Yasser Arafat's scarf, right? It has political meaning, right? So using that as a prop, I think it's quite cool to use as shorthand. But it's interesting when they drop the scarf. Like also logically, it doesn't make sense when you're about to punch somebody. Why would you drop a scarf first? But anyway, like filmically, I like that they've created this kind of shorthand that Tiger aa gaya, that kind of thing. I love it.
But that is also why, like, I feel like we need to be careful about letting the general context affect our viewing of the films itself, because I remember when the first Tiger movie came out and people were like, oh my God, Salman is showing like solidarity with the Palestinian cause. And I was just like, sweetheart, you've got to be kidding me.
But somebody also pointed out in the live stream, Salman has a tiny cut in the action and Shah Rukh has a full bloody face in the interval scene.
But that's knowing what their looks are. That's their looks. Shah Rukh has the bloody mouth. Salman has always the hit here. That's all he goes for. It's their iconic bloody looks,
But also symbolic of their characters that they've now established, right? Like Shah Rukh's character, Pathaan, is a more emotional, vulnerable character. He is more, and physically, his physicality is smaller. So he is more likely to get beaten up like that. Yeah. I really like actually that there is this difference between the way they've set up Pathaan as a character. He is more emotional. He is more vulnerable. He is more likely to get conned by Rubai than Tiger might have been by a character. Whereas with Tiger, he is indestructible. Tiger says he's going to need Pathaan's help at some point, but I don't believe that Tiger can fight the world.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Tiger's got Zoya. Why does he need Pathaan?
Yeah.
Were you guys hoping that Kabir or Zoya would show up? Because I was like, Zoya would be good.
I was.
Especially because Katrina posted on her Instagram page about Pathaan. So I was like, Zoya's definitely going to be there. And then she wasn't. And I was
I thought that was kind of lovely, that message. Yeah. And also, what did you think of the, after the end credit sequence? Because that I like that part was spoiled. The first part was spoiled. I knew it was going to happen as soon as they went in the train. But that last part, I didn't know exactly what was going to happen. What did you guys feel of that final banter that they have going on?
It's like that Marvel thingy that they have set up this universe, and it's a nod to their careers so far, and देश का सवाल है, बच्चों पे नहीं छोड़ सकते. It's such a lovely moment.
But also, it's like it's double. It's got a double meaning, right? It's got a meaning in the world of Pathaan, which is are they talking about Kabir as a kind of more junior agent? Are they talking who are they talking about in that sense? And then in the film industry as well, like who? Because me and my friends were discussing it. Like, who are they talking about?
Who do we speculate are they talking about?
I mean, everybody else who's junior to them, other than Salman, Amir, and Shah Rukh.
Yeah.
I mean, my guess would be Ranveer Varun is who they're talking about.
Yeah.
I also think, the whole Marvel thing was something that really, the first time I saw it, I was just like, they basically built the Hydra lair, all of that, starting from the introduction of Jim in his little fortress of solitude, from there to the missile thing was so reminiscent of so many different things that you've seen in Marvel and everything. So I was like, oh, I see. But they did it well, in my opinion. The whole Jim's, I don't exactly understand what Jim's sources of income are. But he's saying that, he can loot a bank by sitting at home. So I assume that's what he's been doing. But yeah, good for Jim.
My biggest gripe through that whole Jim plot was he's such a mastermind, and he's been doing all these master heists and supplying weapons, and he's a corporate whatever crime lord or whatever. He's been doing all these stuff for different terrorist groups across the world. But then when it comes to the actual combat man to man, he just reveals all his plans to Pathaan. Like, here's the detonator. If you deactivate it, all my plans go fail. So come and get me,
But that's a trope of the genre, though, right? That's how
they could have. They could have done it better. Like Deepika discovered it on that mobile phone, with Sergey. She could have just revealed the plans from that, rather than Jim speak it out loud.
I mean, they should have been shooting Jem on site as soon as they got there. But but then that would just end the movie. So yeah.
The other plot hole for me plot flaw for me that is really hard to give my imagination to is Rubai's kind of turnaround from being on Jim's team to being a good person. It wasn't convincing for me. There wasn't really like a clear reason for why her alliances would change. I think that was one of the biggest flaws for me in the storyline as well.
Haroon, that's because Sarfaraz dhoka dega. That's what it was. Sarfaraz dhoka dega.
I think my sort of explanation of that is that Deepika trusts no one. She's been undercover. She's been working for ISI all this while, and she's in favor of her country. And as soon as she discovered was Jim's plan, she is trying to defect that, right? And so she discovers that he's about to design a global pandemic which can affect anybody. So I need to,
So you think she was ISI? You still think she's a undercover ISI agent?
Yeah. All the way.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I didn't think that. I thought she was genuinely bad on Jim's team and then somehow has an epiphany and, switches sides.
Okay.
I thought that she'd been placed there by General Kader, because I thought like that was the way that she, she reacts to like what John says, like apne logon ko batana. So I felt like she wasn't an undercover ISI agent. I thought like she was like literally like General Kader called her up and was like, "Hey, this is an ISI thing." And then she realized that actually it's not an ISI thing.
Because when they have just before the Russian heist, right? Even Dimple says, don't let Rakta Beach to get into the hands of the ISI. And from the ISI's perspective, they are also trying, don't let the RAW get, get their hands on Rakta Beach. So from her perspective, she's protecting her country as well, right? So there is no good and bad there in a sense. Her betrayal of Shah Rukh is just, making sure that her country's national security is taken care of.
My problem that I had was that Shah Rukh gets convinced very quickly to help her out again. Like, after the formal salam scene.
Look at her. We would all be convinced.
Whatever you say, Rubai. Whatever you say, I'll do it.
No, but also, like, I don't think any of the shocking twists and turns were that shocking and twisting and twisty and turn. Like, I knew from the get-go that Rubai was going to be working for Jim. I knew from the get-go that she was going to double-cross Shah Rukh, because Shah Rukh is just like, oh, let me jump in there and like get it. Oh, you want me to throw it back to you? Sure. And I'm just like, you're an idiot, man. And then like, this is the first time that anything like he's ever been defeated by anyone. I was like, really? With brains like that?
Isn't there a joke about, how Pathans are naive and they can be, like the dumb blonde trope of how Pathans are? Is that playing into that,
Like, but I think, sorry, go ahead, Amrita.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, this is why I think War's better. I think the twist in War came a lot better. I think the double crossing of Khalid's character, I think all of that came a lot better. And this is also why I think Tiger Zinda Hai is better, because I think the action sequences, the set action sequences in Tiger, you were more invested in the character at that point. Like Zoya's sequence in Tiger Zinda Hai, when she goes into that kind of mansion and saves all the women from there, that is so well constructed with it, the music, with the Noura sisters singing in the background, with the stunt work, with everything. The choreography is so much better. Yeah. I also invested in her as a character. All those things kind of let this down for me.
But I think that's, again, because it's real fighting, right? Like in Tiger, like there's real explosions. Here, there's always an element that something gets screwed up. Like even in the big plot reveal that we're saying, Shah Rukh is falling. But I love the part that while he's falling, you get the flashback of Rubai and JonaBrahim playing chess. But on the other hand, Deepika has this blowtorch with the worst effects, burning that thing while she's doing it. And then
Shah Rukh smashing that glass table and the glass is all CGI. It just
but also
disintegrates.
He's falling down, but his hair is down. Like aerodynamically, that doesn't make sense. The hair should be up. Like, you know what I mean? Like it goes up when he's falling down, but the hair is going down. Like all of these things, it's like sticks out to you because there's so much nonsense at the same time happening. And I think if you just keep it a bit more real, a bit more grounded, then maybe it doesn't pull people out as much.
Yeah, for sure. Like the one thing that I would give like proper credit to do in this movie is the oneer that they pulled just before Bhai's entry, right? When Shah Rukh is all beat up. Just before that, all that Shah Rukh goes through, or Pathaan goes through to beat up all those Russian prisoners in that train carriage. And that's shot like a oneer, really smartly cut, but I don't know how they pulled it, but it was amazing. That was so well done.
Sujoy, man, although I have to say, you told me it was a runner, I had a oneer, I'd not noticed it, but when I started noticing the special effects really started bothering me. So actually, you shouldn't have told me that it was a oneer, unfortunately, because his face is morphed that way, right? And I do still think there's a oneer in War. There's a oneer in the whole Katrina sequence is a oneer pretty much too. And I think both of them are better than the one that they've shot in the train sequence.
I'm just impressed how they made Shah Rukh like kick ass like that. Like physically he's so beat up at this point, like the whole dialogue that he had of hip replacements and, all the metals that are in his body, that's actually Shah Rukh, and so he cannot physically do that oneer sequence.
Yeah.
But they made it look like he did, and I was completely impressed.
Can I tell you, my 3 biggest issues with this film are glass, because they can't smash glass, fire, because they don't know how to do fire, and the third, and this breaks my heart to say, is Shah Rukh's face.
Yes.
And for me,
100% agree.
I don't know what they did to his face. I think they were using some sort of de-aging filter on him, but and also his nose looks really different. This is not the Shah Rukh that I know. And I don't know if it's too much contouring on the nose or if there's other things at hand. But for me, it took me at least 15 minutes of the film realizing that this is Shah Rukh. I don't know if anybody else felt that way.
I 100% agree with you. The nose was bothering me all the time. I think with the special effects is also like what Sujoy is saying. How did they do it? They basically face more of the face around the beard. And then the nose gets more pronounced in a weird way. I don't know why that is. I think the guys from the Corridor crew should do a video about it or something like that to break it down. But it really did bother me too. It also bothered me his styling. Like a lot of times he has this Johnny Depp Pirates of the Caribbean styling where his like hair is like greasy and coming out. I don't know.
That last dialogue didn't work for me. The whole like, I'm only going to get my hair shampooed that he says at the end. There's not been, his hair hasn't played a character in the film for that to be a dialogue at the end. He's not shown, so for me, the hair didn't work either.
I think it works at the start. So go ahead.
No, you guys went wrong in like looking at his face. Like that's basically what went wrong. Like,
what were you looking at, Amrita?
I'm not looking at his face. I can promise you that. I couldn't care less about what he looked like.
Like Shah Rukh's introduction scene in the flashback when Dimple starts speaking about Pathaan recovering from that Myanmar mission, and he's wearing the skimpiest banyan. With the nipples just pointing out like that.
Like, why was he even wearing it? Like, like he could have just been like bare chested, but no, they had to put him in like this peekaboo, like, tank top. But that
reminded me of fucking Baghi dragging scene in Baghi. It was like that. No.
Sorry, what's
terrible? What's the ragging scene where he gets, when Salman is put in a bra.
your brain went there. Okay.
Yeah. Like, why is Shah Rukh made to wear this,
No, because I appreciate Siddharth Anand so much because like in War, he like really understood what the girlies wanted and had like, Hrithik and Tiger just sort of like staring at each other with suppressed lust. And then this one, he was just like, you know what? Everyone can be naked. There's John, I'm going to put him in a kacha. And there's Shah Rukh, I'm going to like take his top off. And there's like Deepika, and she's just going to be hot in a bra. And I was like, you know what? I respect this. I respect this a lot.
I found it funny that Colonel Luthra totally has the hots for Hrithik, but Shah Rukh, he doesn't give a crap about it. He's like, this is not my king, guys. Hrithik, I'm in.
I like him, daddy.
Anything else that, Amrita, that you didn't like in the movie, or any negatives that you have that we haven't covered yet?
I actually have a list of things that I like, just going back to like what you were saying, Asim, like I really like the fact that they used Deepika's legs the way that they did in the choreography. You know, like I laughed when she moved Shah Rukh out of the way with her legs. I was just like, that's really good.
It reminded me of Femke Janssen in Xena Onotop. They do the same thing in that James Bond movie. I think it's GoldenEye, where she's choking people with her legs. It's a very like leg forward choreography. Just reminded me that of it.
I think like the one thing that I didn't like, you know, and this is just my general filmmaking thing that I don't really love, which is that the somewhere in Africa thing. I was just like, you know, fuck off. Like, it's something that like annoys me in Hollywood movies, and it's just annoying me that Bollywood is also just sort of wholeheartedly, you know.
It's like black people negotiating, like they're buying like mangoes, like Kalashnikov.
Some auntie going like, ye chahiye. But also like, you know, I get where they're getting it from. They're getting it from that Tom Hanks movie. But the idea that Somali pirates would hunt down John and his wife to murder them, I'm like, they are pirates from Somalia. There is like a certain, like, you know.
If you're not on the sea, you're safe.
Where did they find John and his wife? Like they came to India as just like a bunch of Somali pirates going around like, oh, we're looking for a raw agent. Like, what the hell does that mean? Which is why I feel like, you know, the Tiger movie, the Ekta Tiger was better, because like at least it's sort of like plugged into actual realities of like, okay, and that's what I expect from a Kabir Khan film, to be honest. Like, you know, he does understand geopolitics a little bit.
Or fighting wolves, you know.
But yeah, that was pretty funny. But as other people were saying, I think Irfan was also saying that, you know, they've already mentioned that Kabir and Jim were partners. So if they want to do a prequel with John Abraham and Hrithik Roshan, I would watch it.
But they need to move fast, man. I'm waiting for now. They need a John Hrithik film. They need, as I think Zoya and Rubai were friends. I think they were in the ISI together. They trained together. They need to come fast. Give me the movies.
I want to see Zoya and Rubai training for like somebody's shadi ka song together. You know, like what happens in Pakistan is like choreography aise karenge. That's what I need to see like in a prequel movie. Like they try to get Alia Bhatt out of Razi. That was the plan, you know, like something like that. Like this made the whole thing, you know. But do you guys think, I mean, they are building this YRF universe, right? Is there going to be a Pathaan 2? Is there going to be like, okay, Tiger has done 3 now, right? So does that mean there's going to be a War 2? Yes, right?
Yes.
But Pathaan?
There is absolutely going to be a Pathaan 2. There's like, apparently somebody from the industry was tweeting how like all the writers in Bombay right now are being told, kuch Pathaan jaisa likho. You know? So YRF is 100% going to, and by the way, this movie was written by Sriram Raghavan. That is not like
Sridhar. It's not
Sriram.
No, it's Sriram's. Yeah, Sriram's brother.
Yeah, Sridhar. Okay, Sridhar Raghavan and Abbas Tairwala. Both of whom are like really good writers, by the way. So YRF is not doing this in a sort of, their marketing is shit, as we have discussed at length. and they release prints that they shouldn't, and their VFX is also terrible, but the niyat is saaf, I think. Like, you know,
also great for Abbas Tyrewala to come kind of out of the cave he's been in for the last how many years, right? Like,
what else has he written?
Well, he did Jaane Tu Ya Na Jaane Na. That was like a massive success, and then he did the movie with his wife, with I think John Abraham, right? Like, and that flopped, and then he was
it Jhuta To Sahi or something like that?
Yeah, I think so. And then he just disappeared. I couldn't like such a big star, like such a big movie. And he was like riding on success. I think they produced that movie, like the sequel. Then he cast his own wife in it, and it just like went really, really weird. And then like it's good to have that talent back. And I think Sujoy pointed out really well. He does have that Qadir Khan flair that we sometimes miss in dialogue writing. And you could see the difference for sure.
Like, but that's actually a double.
We missed out a big name out there. Like if you are speaking of dialogue, he wrote for Munna by MBBS, and that was the flair that we missed, you know. And sorry, Amrita, to cut you out. What were you saying?
No, I was just saying that that's a double-edged sword, because a lot of the girlies and boys these days, they can't actually deliver those dialogues. We saw that with Kalank, you know, like Varun gave it his best shot. Like, poor thing, like I've never felt that bad for somebody, like desperately trying to say the dialogues and just falling flat at every point. So Abbas Tyrewala, like, you know, he does write like really good dialogues, but there's like a vanishing number of people who can actually deliver them.
But you know, the one thing that is concerning for me is that this film has released in January. In December, we get Tiger, what's it called? Tiger 3? Is that what it's just called? Tiger 3? So that's the next installment of this. But what is Siddharth Anand doing? He is now making Fighter with Hrithik Roshan and Deepika Padukone, both characters that exist in his Spyverse, but in a completely different story. So for me, I kind of feel like, why waste time making this kind of irrelevant movie that I'm sure I will enjoy when it releases, but this is delaying the progression of the Spyverse. Like, why do I need to invest into new characters now when you've already worked so hard to establish these ones?
I don't think Siddharth Anand is directing all of them, though. Like,
that's the best thing that they can do. Not have Siddharth Anand do, like, they have enough directors around them, and I think they should promote other people to do this. And then I also feel the way the movie is made is very much in that Marvel way of making movies, where there's large set pieces and a lot of special effects, but the director is less important. And I think that's also Siddharth Anand as a filmmaker. Like, we've seen quite a few movies with Siddharth Anand, from Salam Namaste to here. Can you pinpoint a sequence or say, oh, that's a very Siddharth Anand shot? I cannot. You know, he's very milquetoast, very vanilla as a filmmaker. Although he does have flair. I love the sequences where they're like flipping a gun and the camera is following the gun. You know, I love, like, they do that with the shotgun. They do that with the bazooka when John is bringing it up. I love how the camera flips that. I love that little flair, but it's all little flair that I've seen in other things. It's not necessarily a unique Siddharth Anand filmmaker.
That's also a DOP choice rather than, you know.
No, he's very much into homages. Like, you can tell who are his favorite directors and where he's getting his inspiration from. And I don't mean that in a belittling way. I don't mean that as a knock on him at all. I think it was George Clooney who once said that, you know, like 50% of filmmaking is knowing where you can steal from and how to steal it. And he does it very well.
It's a bit dangerous now, though. I think it's a little bit dangerous with him, because, like, even with Bang Bang, which I quite enjoyed Bang Bang, and I think there's some good action sequences in there as well, especially the sequence after the Tu Meri song where they're chasing through the streets. All that and War and this one, I enjoy them, but this one felt the most blatant, where it was, this is some Fast and Furious, this is some Mission Impossible, this is some James Bond. This felt the most inspired by others, and I think that's quite dangerous, because as Asim said, he has got no distinct style of his own now.
But I think it's also a skill set to be able to handle the budget, handle the SFX, handle the stars, right? And give the audience, like even with War, he very much figured out what the audience wants of Hrithik and what they want of Tiger, and they delivered it to a point that Tiger didn't even understand yet. Like Tiger has not figured out what the audience wants for him, but Siddharth Anand did, otherwise, and he's not been able to replicate that. And I don't think he will, unfortunately. Tiger doesn't know what the audience want from him. And I think that is a skill, so we shouldn't underplay. So I think we mentioned dialogue writing, but I also want to mention the score, the background score.
Yeah,
is amazing.
For each character. Yeah,
I love the gym theme. Whenever he stops and comes in, it's amazing. And
the addition of the door rumble, like a door of a Haveli opening along with the score.
And just the idea of having Tiger score and Pathaan score meld together into one theme song while they're like shooting their guns in the sky is like chef's kiss.
Like that Twitter video of the Virodhi who went for the Virod and then Samarthan mein dekha, goosebumps khada ho gaya.
Did you see that one, Haroon? Did you see that video?
No, I haven't seen that.
We have to send it to you.
It's like a guy that went to boycott the movie, and it's like nobody showed up for the boycott, so somebody gave me a ticket. So I went to watch the movie, and I really enjoyed it.
And he's going for the second time.
Oh, wow.
He's like, the first time I went to protest and then I watched it, so I didn't really enjoy it. Now I want to go watch it again so I can really enjoy it.
And I felt there's no better illustration of the power of Shah Rukh Khan than that, like that little video of 30-40 seconds is like, yes, you go in, but his star persona, his love, he's like, the guy was saying, when he said Jai Hind, the arms, the hair on my arm stood up, that kind of thing. And it's like, that's what the movie does. That's what Shah Rukh manages to do, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Also like so I actually, I'm sorry, but like I thought the War jukebox is something that I listen to even today. Not the songs, but like the background scores, like the theme. And the Kabir's theme is like what I listen to. Like I love that song. So I don't have the same feeling for the Pathaan, album. Right? But I do think they did a really great job. Like Siddharth Anand does understand how to use music in his film. Yeah. That part where, the first time when Jim and Pathaan meet, and it's a Mere Watan Ke Logon, but like as a whistling tune.
Yeah.
Woo! Like that really sold that moment for me, like you really felt the menace. And also like, John looks amazing in latex. Like he's got his Bane helmet on, and then he like takes it off, and he's got his tight little tushy, and he's like walking around in latex. And I'm just like, that's the villain. Yeah. So that really worked for me. But can we talk about Dimple Kapadia for a moment? Because I don't think we've shown her enough love.
Amazing. I also love that they gave her a comedic sequence. The whole 3D image
hologram
thing that they do. I thought that was a really funny, like just be able to give scope to that character, right? And I don't think it's happened in a spy universe kind of movie that, there's a character like this who has the shades of, happiness, sadness, comedy, and sacrifice. I thought she was a proper badass,
She's excellent. Just absolutely excellent. The biggest shame of this film is that they kill her off. Yeah. Like, that is literally such a shame.
They introduced M in one movie and then just killed her off in the same,
But I love, she's in this universe. She's also in the Brahmastra universe. She's also in Tenet. Like, name me a woman of her generation who has got a filmography at this stage that is as vast as that.
Yeah, and amazing hair. Still amazing hair.
Still amazing hair. But like that scene where, her final speech, like it's a very boilerplate speech, right? Like it's like, we won't let the terrorists win. We are going to go out on our own terms, yada, yada, yada. but she sells the heck out of it. You know, you can really see that 80s training come into play where she's just like, you know, like, this is how you give a masala speech, you know, this is how you bloody tell people that, you know, these are our terms and like, we're going to win no matter what. And then Pathaan walking down that corridor and like, you know, sort of like jerking with like every gunshot.
I cried. I cried.
I did too. That is the second person I cried. I was just like, no. I mean, that's one of the reasons why, like, I was talking to my friend Anila, and, you know, like, she's an actual Pathaan. And I was just talking to her about it, and she was just like, you know, like, it's going to take her a little while to really understand what she thinks of this movie, because the way that she saw it, and she saw it twice as well. And she said she's going to go for a third time when her husband comes home. But she was saying that, you know, like the first 2 times that she saw, she just giggled madly all throughout because it was all feeling, you know. And that's how I feel too. Like, this has been a very long time since I went for an event movie, since I went for a movie where, you know, I was going to attend a movie screening rather than just go watch a movie and then come back and like talk about it, you know. So
packed theater, like both times I went, it was packed. Like, I've not had that feeling of a packed theater in ages.
Yeah.
I mean, Cineworld hasn't had that in a while, you know.
Yeah.
Even my cinema that I went to here it's a very new cinema, and actually it's always dead. Like, there's nobody there because nobody knows it exists. And also there's another Cineworld 5 minutes down the road. This is the most full I've ever seen it. The lobby, the foyer was packed on Friday night, and also they had showings every half hour. So for me, like, this has just made me feel so happy to see people coming to the cinema. Not that I get any shares in the cinema's profits, or it just makes me so happy that it's brought people out.
It's also just like, you forget that it's a
like
shared
personal
experience, like watching a movie, cheering together, feeling joy together. And we've been in the pandemic for so long, and we've kind of like almost had this feeling like, yeah, ghar pe dekh lenge, you know, like it's fine. But there is something added to the theatrical experience that I hadn't felt in a while.
Best thing they did is that the film did not open with exclusive streaming partner Amazon Prime. And I can't remember if I've heard it on your podcast or somewhere else where somebody was like, it's humiliating when you go into the cinema and the first thing you see is exclusive streaming partner Netflix or Amazon Prime, because you kind of do think, well, if this film is rubbish, that's a waste of my money. I really felt a cinematic value to this.
Yeah, I had that in action.
I think that is the YRF like muscle. Like, I'm sure when Amazon Prime negotiate their price, they are upfront giving them money for the production as well, right? So they would probably say in the first 10 seconds of the movies, thank you, sponsors and everything, you would have to flash that symbol of, you know, exclusive streaming partner. But YRF is like, are you going to be in or out? You know, so
But also, YRF has given a lot of kachra mal to Prime too in the last year. Like, I was saying, like, they had to go through Jesh Bhai Jordar to get to here. Right? Like, so. I think we're almost running at 2 hours, so let's start wrapping up. You know, Haroon, anything that you still want to, like, something we forgot or anything that we want to?
No, I love this movie, and actually speaking to the three of you has made me want to go and watch it for a third time today. So straight after this, I'm going to check if I can get tickets.
We should have bought some Cineworld shares, man. Like, we just podcast, like, you know, like crypto people do. They buy the crypto, then talk about it. We should do that. Sujoy, any final things that we've not covered or anything?
Oh man, I just like, we've sung praise for Abbas Tyrewala so much, but even he makes like John sound so good. Like, you know, we live by the cards that are played to us. He says that, right? And he says that in Hindi or Urdu, whatever, you know, he says like, jo patte mein the unhi se bazi khelni padti hai aur is khel mein charo ikke mere paas hai, and then he walks off. Like, wow, that was so badass. And then पार्टी पठान के घर पे रखोगे तो मेहमान नवाजी के लिए पठान तो आएगा ही और पटाखे भी लाएगा. Man, shaking. Like, when was the last time you had a Bollywood dialogue had that impact and Shah Rukh speak those lines? Oh, yeah, so good.
But also that one line right at the start when Pathaan is upside down in the car in Dubai and John's character is saying, and at another point we would have been friends. And it's a really simple dialogue, but it's true. Their characters aren't. And even the compassion that Pathaan shows for Jim when he says, Raw, he says to Luthra, you've got so much money. Couldn't you have paid to help him out? Even those little dialogues are so good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amrita, any final thing we haven't covered on your list or anything you want to point out?
I mean, this is very shallow, but when I saw Jhume Jo Pathaan on YouTube, basically, I didn't really appreciate all the styling choices that went into Shah Rukh until I saw it on the big screen. Like, I didn't notice the ear cuffs and what you are calling, the Johnny Depp light dressing, but it's Shah Rukh, man. Like, he pulls it off.
He pulls it off better than Johnny Depp does.
He does. He absolutely does. That sequence where he and Deepika are walking towards each other on that sort of promenade area. And it's just the two of them, and he's wearing that white shirt and the, like the weird vest kind of a thing. And it's just that Shah Rukh swagger when he's like walking. And I was just like, how is this man 57? Like, I don't get it. Like, he's just so incredibly hot in this film. I'm probably going to watch it for the third time too, Haroon. So it'll be you and me both.
I did find it interesting that I felt that the Besharam Rang editing in the movie was very much different from the one that got released too. Like, there were a lot of sequences that were like slowed down or shot. And I mean, it's for maximum value. And I think, Haroon, what you were saying, there's probably maybe even an idea that they wanted to maybe create controversy, because I felt that it wasn't as sexy or hot necessarily. It just felt like I
think they had to make cuts, right? So you could see a lot of the shots were zoomed in. They were cropped in. Yeah. The gold swimsuit was almost not there at all. Yeah. The orange bikini was more covered up. The shots of his hand on her body had gone completely. So there was definitely a lot of choppy editing there.
Yeah. But smart choices. I don't feel it, it felt odd or anything like that. Yeah.
And also, like, Jhume Jo Pathaan has grown on me over the last couple of days. Like, I remember when it came out, a lot of people were like, oh, they made Shah Rukh dance so awkwardly and everything. But it's become this legit anthem for people to dance at the cinema now. So it's amazing.
No, but it looks way better on the big screen than it does on your laptop, like, it looked really awkward. Like, I was one of those people that was like, why are they making Shah Rukh do these things? But then when you see it on the big screen, like, it all sort of like gels together, in my opinion.
There's that shot where he does the Shah Rukh pose and he shows his abs. The lady next to me, just like her breath, I
both songs are excellent. Like, they are excellent songs. And I think Vishal Shekhar have done a brilliant job with this. I know, as a fan, I'm sad because it's only 2 songs, but the 2 songs are excellent. And I think that's really good.
And it took a lot of measure of restraint to not sneak in another song in there, right? Like, they could.
I wouldn't have minded.
Yeah, but if it's a good song, right? Like, if it's like a terrible mid song, then that would have been insane. Okay, guys, I think we've done justice to our Shah Rukh. We've done justice to our Shah Rukh by talking 2 hours about it.
2 whole hours.
So, I mean, I want to thank everybody that's here on the chat with us. Came into this last minute live stream that we again had planned in Khandaan style, didn't like tell people. And, but thank you for that. And thank you for everybody that came to the Khandaan meetup for us too. That was amazing. We're going to do another one in Aprilish, right, Amrita? We can start announcing a little bit. Inshallah, we should do another one and a bigger one. So in April, we'll let you guys know. And I'm hoping Haroon will come down too.
I would love to.
Yeah. So, and Haroon, thank you for taking so much time on a Sunday, and even with a sore throat, talking so much. Although I feel like the more you talked about Shah Rukh, Boris went away.
You know what? I honestly, when I woke up this morning, I was heartbroken at the prospect that I wouldn't be able to do this. So thank you for inviting me specifically to this episode as well, because I've had so much fun for the last 2 hours. I also want to say that the three of you, I've been on this podcast like quite a few times now over the years, and I love what the three of you are doing. I listen to Khandaan podcast every week. I listen to it while I'm walking. I love the conversations you have, and I love the community that you've built as well. So please keep it up.
Thank you so much, man.
Thank you so much.
And we're so looking forward to your new show. I think this is one thing you need to clarify, though. I've been on the show a lot of time with you, and thank you every time for inviting me. A lot of people ask, can I listen to the show outside of the UK?
Yes.
I don't have a clear answer for that.
Yes, you can. So you can hear my shows on the BBC Asian Network, but to access that, you need the BBC Sounds app, which you can download anywhere around the world. So if you download the BBC Sounds app, you can listen on there to whenever Asim or Sujoy or Amrita, on all three of you have been on a podcast episode as well, which actually I'll give you the link to, so you can share that link as well, and also to my new show.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to be invited to that new show.
Of course.
Man na man.
मैं तेरा पठान.
Sujoy, I was going to say.
Sujoy.
Any final words? Where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at 93K, and you can follow Khandaan Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at Khandaan Podcast.
Amrita?
You can find me on Twitter at AmritaIQ.
Haroon, your ideas?
I am Haroon Rashid on every platform, and the I comes because Shah Rukh had I before. I'm SRK on his handles as well.
Amazing. Drop us an email at youpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us. And thank you guys, man. This was so much fun. I'm looking forward to the next time we can do it.
Khandaan Podcast on the Acting Club.